everybody.
Hello there. Sorry, I was just
Hello.
reading this fine novel, this Era of the Eclipse. It's really engaging. I'm just really in on this book. Okay, fine. My shtick is over. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Wait, you're
Hi,
running this
everybody.
panel. Wait, you're running this panel,
Yeah,
Jenny.
I'm
Go,
running
run
the
this panel.
panel. Now I'm the creative manager, so you can just like associate here with me in a publishing way while I creatively manage this panel. So anyway, hi everybody. I am here today with a special guest, Thurston Hillman, our associate publisher, and I am Jenny Jarzabski, Starfinder creative manager. We are here today to hang out with y'all, show you what we've got planned for the Starfinder 2 launch, and maybe share some spoilers with you today.
Oh, I'm here. We're giving away a lot of spoilers. That's what I do.
Yeah,
It's how
basically,
I
I
keep
brought him.
cred with the people by giving them
And what
spoilers, right,
I
chat? Right?
do, yeah, and chat, what I do is I invite him here because he's my boss. And so if I'm giving away spoilers and he's giving away spoilers, I'm not going to get in trouble for it. So it's his fault. Like right now, he's ultimately responsible for the spoilers that are shared today. So everybody, buckle
like
up.
in this novel, like, you want to know where the Order of the Eclipse came from? You should get this novel.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
You really should. So let's get this show on the road. Let's get into this starship. We've got a star map of our release. Oh, look at
so
that.
much. There's so much.
Goodness, you don't have to tell me that. There is so much exciting content that we have coming out for you. So if you take a look here, we actually have some things that are out now. We have Galaxy Guide, which is already out. You can purchase it right now on Paizo.com and get yourself set up for the subscription there if you want. That is already here with us. And then let's see. Let's take a look at that. Let's actually take a look at Galaxy Guide because we're gonna do a deep dive here, and then we'll talk about the rest of these exciting products. Yes. So I believe we have a spread from Galaxy Guide that shows off one of my favorite things from this book, which is a never before seen archetype related to one of our major factions in the galaxy. So this is a Xenodruid. This is an archetype that a lot of mystics and maybe other folks might want to take that allows you to literally bond with a planet, kind of like a mystic bond, literally like a mystic bond. Instead of bonding with people, you can bond with a world. So a lot of Xenowardens are actually Xenodruids. I know that's a little confusing. Xenowarden is the name of the faction of conservationists. They include Xenodruids, mystics, other kinds of spellcasters and sage types, but they also have a lot of scientific researchers and environmental activists like envoys and soldiers who go along with them. But Xenodruids are
compatibility. You can be a Pathfinder druid and a Xenodruid and just really like compound some words towards your GM.
Exactly. Your GM is going to love you for it. So yeah, Xenodruid is a specific tradition that involves bonding with your planet and potentially bonding with more planets in the future. I'm going to leave this up for just a couple minutes, let you take in that art. I'm sure people are already screen capping this and getting ready to dissect it on Reddit.
The book's out. They
but if you don't have it, here's a free sample. Yeah, here you go. So we don't have to linger on it because the book is out, as Thirsty said.
You can go to Paizo.com or your friendly local game stores and acquire this fine book. Might I recommend the special edition? Look at this. Look, it's still in the wrapper, but it's pretty. I'm not taking it out of the wrapper. It's so pretty. Look at this. Look at the free captain symbol. So good. So good. This was a really fun book to work on, though. Like just in terms of being different. Like we had a lot of ways in which we were going to format this book, and then we ended up doing some different ways of formatting this book, focusing really on different types of adventures, which is pretty cool. And there's a lot of what I will call promissory notes in this book. And by that, I mean, you can probably see a lot of adventure seed ideas here.
Yes, it is packed full of them. So instead of organizing our guide to the galaxy by locations, we have organized this by adventure types. We've talked about this a little bit in our panel yesterday, Adventures in the Cosmos. If you didn't catch that, you can check out that video. We also mentioned it a little bit in the keynote, but it's full of different types of adventures you can run in Starfinder, from horror adventures to high tech to high fantasy in space. And it shows you exactly where in the setting you can go. A lot of times it's multiple places to have this type of adventure and really have the setting serve your needs as a GM or as a player. There's also backgrounds. There are 6 new playable ancestries, 6 new archetypes like the Xeno Warden or the Xeno Druid that we just showed off, representing the Xeno Wardens. Also, lots of write-ups about cool locations to get all of your adventure started and get you ready for our big launch, which is we're coming up. So back to that star map. Let's take a look at what comes next.
Wow. Back to the roadmap we go. Look at that. Okay. Oh wow.
Roadmap.
Oh wait,
God.
the next thing's kind of intimidating. That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff. So here in August, we've got a 3-book pile up here, and honestly more. There's accessories we didn't even throw in here. We've got the Era of the Eclipse, the novel Thirsty keeps talking about. Yep, it really is good and timely in a really weird way.
And that's not including the times I've read this book when I had to do editing and like checks on it. So
it's a good one. It's a really good read, and it does really pull the curtain back on some parts of our setting that we have never shown before. You get to meet 2 iconics. Day and Chick Chick are in this book. They are in a starring role. But we've got more coming. We have Player Core, which is our big first release of our actual rules to go on and supplement Galaxy Guide. We have so much in this book. We've got our 6 core classes, we have ancestries, tons more backgrounds, we have spells, all of the rules to start out your Starfinder game. Let's see, you know what? And something cool about the Player Core is that we thought, you know what? This is a sci fantasy game. People are here for the loot fantasy. They want to swap out their guns. You want to go and like get your gun vending machines or pick up your loot and swap those suckers out to deal different types of energy damage. We've got you covered. So Player Core has all of the equipment. Instead of gating that into GM Core, we have moved all of that into Player Core so that players can peruse all of their gear options, including weapons, magic items, tech gear, armor, and augmentations for their bodies, as well as upgrades that customize and boost their weapons and armor, and even shields. I think we've got a spoiler page. Yeah, I see it. It's right there. So here's one of the beautiful charts and beautiful tables and beautiful displays of weapons we have, just as a teaser. Thirsty, wasn't there a time, you remember the time when it was like 30 pages of tables that we were going to put in this book?
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember we were going to do like 7 versions of each weapon, and we went through some iterations. But that, you know, that really speaks to playtesting, which was such a big part of this process. So, you know, remember back to a year ago, just over a year ago, we released the Starfinder Second Edition playtest rulebook. We went and did a whole bunch of things. Really, I know we've talked about these books coming up, but one of the biggest, you know, I will say changes, I suppose, is just all of the playtest feedback that we were able to incorporate in this, of which there is a lot. We talk about things like ancestries and classes and equipment. We went through all of them, everything, whether that was, you know, looking at class feedback we received or looking at ancestry feedback. You know, there's a couple spoilers I think that we can dive in on. Some of them we've talked about, some of them might be new to people, but you know, one of the things with ancestries that we found out was when we did the playtest, we introduced the Barathu. Cool new ancestry. They fly innately. That's a new Starfinder thing. The problem was that with some of those ancestries, and when they fly and do other weird things. It led to some strange rules interactions. Like, for example, we have a lot of classes that have stride or step abilities, but when you fly, you don't do that. So something we added to the game that is a Starfinder Second Edition innovation is a new trait we have called the traversal trait. And that basically means if something has the traversal trait on it, it means you can substitute burrow, climb, fly, or swim in place of a stride action. So
Really
that was
useful.
and that was like
And
a rule
needed.
thing we did, because when we're like, oh, the Barathu, they move all of 5 feet. That kind of like sucks when you're like doing like a double charge as a fighter or whatnot. You're like, I stride 5 feet, I stride 5 feet, and I make a strike, and you feel like, what have I done with my life? Well, now you can actually substitute that in with fly, depending on those type of abilities that get them. So really, it's focusing on Starfinder, but there is the potential that if we look in the past, we might be able to apply this trait. It's one of those changes we made, and that's just on the ancestry side. Classes. Oh boy, did we jump into classes and make some pretty significant changes that people are going to see when this book comes out in just a few months. I think you're going to see some updates in classes in terms of cool new abilities, in terms of toning some abilities maybe down that were a bit too good. I'm looking at you, operative. Making some changes to really get these classes in line. Also, just some quality of life things that we went through. The Solarian, one of the big things that we ended up swapping out with the Solarian was improving some of the stuff related to the solar moat and what that does, and the solar flare attacks that they get. But also, looking at maybe some of the Nimbus Surge. One of the things that we found out from playtest data, which was pretty interesting, is, boy, everybody sure loves reactive strike. Reactive
Yeah, they
strike
do.
is sure a pretty cool feat that's hard to take the place of other fates. So, we maybe
Hmm.
bake that a bit more into the class with a particular Solarian flair. So we did a lot of neat stuff, I would say, with classes and iconics in this book. And that
Yeah.
really speaks to that playtesting process, which I, again, could go on for hours about. We just had equipment up, and with equipment, one of the things that we did that was particularly neat was we bumped up some weapon damages across the board. We sure looked at a lot of our guns and other things, and gave them a big boost. A lot of that came from Dustin Knight, our designer, who really hopped in and did some checks and math and all that fun stuff. We also did a similar thing for spells. I remember one of my last meetings before Jenny took over the Starfinder team was us going through spells and just like, errata this, change this, fix this, update this, which was actually really fun, and we got to have weird and interesting discussions. But yeah, the player core is just such an integral book, and we really got to deep dive into some of those specifics, which I think is going to make this book really sing and be a strong start for the game itself.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for y'all to actually get to
Mm-hmm.
see all of it and see what you think. But if you have a rule book, you're going to need some adventures to play with that rule book. So we have you covered. We've got a deluxe adventure coming out. This is a brand new format for Paizo, an adventure in a box, Murder in Metal City. And the cool thing about this box is that inside it has the actual adventure. It has amazing pre-generated characters with art that you can use. Of course, the players can make their own as well. It's got all these handy GM handouts for the players, because this is a murder mystery, and anyone who's run an investigation adventure knows that there's a lot of tracking that goes on, and it can be hard sometimes to keep up with what items and clues the party has and what they still haven't found, and what characters they've met and talked to, and how that influence has gone. So this game has tools designed to help the GM track all of that and really give a deluxe experience to their players. This is just meant for if you have a group of friends who may be new to Starfinder or even Pathfinder, or maybe they've played before and they're ready to get into second edition. And you can just run this for them. You'll have a few game nights. This is a longer adventure, but it all occurs at level 1, so that instead of worrying about leveling up, you can just really immerse yourselves in this adventure, in the story on this metal planet of Avalon. and just enjoy yourselves and really learn your characters before you level up and move on to other things.
It's the fine wine experience. The way this is
Exactly.
not like a beginner box style experience. This is, you've got a GM who probably has an understanding of the system or is wanting to try out their first experience, but has the player core, has likely the GM core later on. Though you don't need GM core or alien core, really. All you need for Murder in Metal City is player core. But it is like that fine wine experience of, here, let me present all this to my players. Let's play this. Let's see if this is the game we want to play. Let's have a really curated, fun experience. There's sidebars in here that talk about the adventure and how to go through it. All of those tools, like Jenny just talked about. We're trying something a bit different here that is not quite a beginner box in terms of entry level, but is sort of that premium experience. Let's put our best foot forward so that people can see what this game and this setting and world are about, and really deep dive it. I mean, I think the book in here is 64 pages,
That's right.
which is a format we've done in the past for like standalone adventures. Even our adventure path line used to be 64 pages, but those would take course over several levels. This is one level of content, so we really get to deep dive it and provide a lot of interesting and fun ways to explore this adventure. Really exciting stuff, and it's going to be great for, like, if you've got streams or friend groups that you want to do online with. There again, you can kind of just throw the characters at people and go.
Yes, and we have a Foundry virtual tabletop module for this that you can purchase as well on Paizo.com or on Foundry's website. I've actually sampled that already. It's pretty cool. If you want to check out a preview of how that might look and some of the characters, you can check out the video from yesterday's live play. Also, I'm running the game. I'm running some encounters a couple more times this afternoon in Discord if you want to pop in and get a sneak peek. But that will be the perfect way to run for those folks. And I see in chat talking about leveling. You can just tell your friends, yeah, we'll level up at the end of the adventure. You're going to level up and you can move on to future adventures, whether it's homebrew or future Starfinder Society scenarios coming out this year that'll be available to get you taken from level 2 up, and future publications. We do plan to have a beginner box in the future. I'm not ready to be able to announce more about that yet, but we know that we want to start out with kind of this more deluxe experience. That being said, it does have a little bit of training wheels. There are some little pieces of just advice and tips for newer GMs, or for any GM really, on running Starfinder 2 encounters and certain things like conditions or zero gravity. So you'll find some little advice throughout the adventure. So don't fear if you are newer to the system or newer to GMing. All right, we talked about that, but you're going to also want some accessories to run these adventures with. So we have a combat pad that we're going to release, and I'm told it actually fits inside the Murder in Metal City box, which is pretty cool. You can have your little carrying case there. But something else that you're going to want for Murder in Metal City is the Infinity Deck by Paizo Games, Joe Piscini, and Jason Keeley. This is a passion project of theirs that they have been wanting to do for years. It's pretty cool that they have finally gotten it to happen. And we finally have this real piece of Starfinder lore that you can actually buy as a deck of 56 cards with 4 suits and rules for, I believe it's 5 different games that come with the cards, but possibilities to play games that you know from Earth, to invent games with your friends, and even for us at Paizo to release more games in the future. So be on the look for that. We might introduce some sneaky ones. I think Murder in Metal City might have a little bit about that, because you get to go to a certain casino in that adventure.
Yep. Super fun. The cards are really high quality too. This is just going to be one of those accessories that's going to be great to have for your games. It has great artwork. It's something that is tactile for your home games. I know inevitably it's going to be, what about a digital version? Andrew White on our team, who works a lot with Foundry and other VTTs, we've certainly talked about, hey, a digital version of this would be pretty cool. Nothing to announce yet, but certainly on the interest spectrum for us is making sure we could get some online availability for this deck for your Foundry games and whatnot as well.
Absolutely, because if we have those Foundry modules, you're going to want to play on Foundry. And I can see a world. I wish we already had it, because I would be using this for my groups today in Casino Chaos. To simulate Absalom Ante is one of the games in this, and it's a gambling game, so you can bet against people and bluff. It's really cool. Like, you can really use this in your game. You could also use this in place of initiative one day, or for a game night when people can't make it and you just have like a couple players, nothing to do. Play some Infinity deck. So yeah, that's going to be super cool. But let's get back to those other releases. We have a lot going on in August, but we're not done. We are spacing out our core release just a little bit, and we have another important book coming out for you in September, which is the GM Core, our Game Master Guide.
Ooh, yes. This one is great.
That's a good
this
one.
one is awesome. It's awesome. Do you have some sample images from it that you
actually
you
do?
sang?
I do. So I've got a cool setting one. So this book does have some new. It has some subsystems like cinematic starship combat and hacking, like a more invested hacking system than simply making a computer's check to hack and be done with it. Like, if you want a little more like virtual avatars descending and trying to get in through a kind of digital mindscape. But we also expand on the setting, starting where Galaxy Guide left off. And this is one of the places you're going to find more about our core gods. Now, these are not the only gods in Starfinder, but these are some of the more popular ones, both as commonly worshipped in the Pact worlds, as well as commonly invoked by some of the villains of the galaxy. And a lot of them are playable, are ones that a lot of player characters might look to for guidance and power.
Absolutely. This is one of the fun parts of this book is, with Galaxy Guide, there was certainly a like, oh, but where do we get details about Abalon or Apostate or whatnot? This book does that. This, we have 2-page spreads on each of the Pact worlds, including some of the newer Pact world editions, shall we say, like,
Colonus.
Recontextualizing things like Apostate and how that works in our setting Triaxis. You can see here, you get to see some of the like basic descriptions of these worlds and in some of the sort of summaries, but you also get 2-page spreads for each of them with a lovely half-page illustration, a little small stat block for the world and an image of the world. We also give some contextualize some things like near space, the vast, the planes. That was a really fun one, was going through and recontextualizing a lot of the planes of existence and how they sort of work in here. Really a lot of setting information for running your games. And then we also go into some of the species as well, whether that's, Sarcisi and Zisoki. Yeah, here you can see a map of the galaxy from Galaxy Guide. This is just a great, again, sort of example of how we're trying to bring everything together. As was brought up earlier, we have, the religions, but there's also, factions that tie in with the factions that you saw in Galaxy Guide. There's faiths and philosophies that we deal with. There's talking about some of the ancestries and how they're somewhat spread around. But we also, have a lot of fun in this book. Subsystems like Jenny mentioned, talking about the cinematic starship combat was a really fun and interesting thing for us to do. This will also have things that, Pathfinder fans are going to be used to, but also recontextualized. Like, for example, a whole section on building creatures. Well, guess what? The math is very similar. But and same with building hazards, but we recontextualize that in terms of what it's like to be a Starfinder character interacting with these. Like, how does things like computers work? Oh boy, we do have some new images that talk about different creatures.
And new
I'm
hazards
going to admit,
for Starfinder,
new
or
hazards,
just for
exactly.
any kind of space and sci fantasy themed content. Because again, you can use anything in this book in a Pathfinder campaign.
Okay. So as an example, in the building creatures section, there is a piece of artwork that I maybe had to ask our lovely tech people to add. I don't want to say that this has been a myth in the community for a while, but here we have a Bantrid, a lovely roly-poly ancestry that exists in our game, in Starfinder, and it maybe has a little bit swole. It's maybe just got some bionic arms added to it. We like to meme a bit about the Swoltrid. People who are like, but we haven't talked about the Bantrid, yet. Like, is it where can I play one of these things? We'll maybe talk about that in the future. Maybe come back to us at Gen Con. We might have more to talk
Well,
about.
we've ordered art of it, so I mean, at least we're thinking of Bantrids, right? So take heart, Bantrid enjoyers. We remember you, and yes, long live Swoltrid.
But
That's such fun art. But there's more
it
in
is.
there. You mentioned
Oh, yeah.
we were talking about Pathfinder, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, Thirsty. You can certainly finish your thought. But we were talking about how Pathfinder people can use this in their games as well. And there is a whole section here about anachronistic adventures that gives you advice on how to mix the sci-fi chocolate and the fantasy peanut butter, or vice versa, how to time travel, how to have alien ships crash and you're back on Valerian again, or on your own high fantasy kind of medievalist planet. Oh yeah, here's some art. So we also have some really fun art kind of mixing and matching the iconics. Here's one example on screen. We've got Obadiah, our Starfinder iconic soldier, back to back with Amiri, the Pathfinder iconic barbarian, about to take down this swarm of sin spawn. I'll leave it to you to decide. Also some what looks like armored troopers in the background. So I'll let you decide if these are Aslanti troopers who have summoned sin spawn on a desert planet, or if Obo is like somehow back in the past beyond the gap, helping Amiri out and being chased by the Aslanti. But there are just so many possibilities with this type of storytelling. So look forward to that chapter.
Yeah, and there's been some questions about things like our cinematic starship scenes that we're doing. We've talked about this in other panels and whatnot.
Yes.
But the sort of crux of what we're doing with starship combat in this is starship scenes. And why we don't call it starship combat is because there's more to doing your starship than just hit each other. So in this,
you can do that.
You can do that. Absolutely, you can.
Don't worry.
But these are done up as scenes. So to give you an example, there are three example starship scenes that we put in the book. The section in the chapter talks about how you build them as a GM. Things you want to include. But one of the two that are in there that I think really showcase the system are the asteroid ambush and scanning a dying sun are the two scenes that we put in there. And they both showcase different types of encounters you can have in a starship with your players, but they're very different styles of encounters. So asteroid ambush is wow, you're in an asteroid field and a corpse fleet ship comes and attacks you. Boo. You've got
never
options.
Happen.
Yeah, never happen. It's absolutely never. It would not be the basis of another
like Guilt of the Grave Worlds. It happens.
Yeah. But we have a corpse fleet ship that's a threat in this encounter. We have the asteroid field itself that is the threat of the encounter. But the victory conditions of this are varied. So you could defeat the corpse fleet ship, you could fight it, win it, hooray, hurrah. Or you could be like, nah, we want to get out of Dodge. We're gonna do actions to get escape points and get out. And so these scenes provide different avenues of success for the players. It also, one of the things we're trying to do with these scenes is give everyone some things to do, different roles in the starship that they can take, different actions. And each one is different. Each one can be crafted differently. It can be crafted around a different starship. It can be crafted around the needs of the scene you've got. The second one that I think is fascinating is like the scanning a dying sun, which is you have a sun that is about to explode, and you have to get some important information out of here, and that uses somewhat of a victory condition system. But you also have to survive this and get out, so you're racing against the clock trying to get information here. And while you're doing this, you might stir up a group of fire elementals that are near the dying sun, and you might have to deal with that suddenly as part of it. Like, that's the type of narrative we want to showcase, but it doesn't take the players out of the action that they're already in. So it's really just taking systems the players are familiar with, rules the players are familiar with, recontextualizing them and presenting them, and letting the players kind of play their characters in these scenes.
And we are going to have more in-depth tactical rules coming out in a future book that we are still working on that. So for right now, GM Core is going to be your best way to run starship combat and have starship scenes of any kind, like Thirsty was just explaining. So make sure you check that book out. September also has some other goodies coming out. We've got a map for you to use. One of our flip mat series, Garage Warehouse, is coming for all your hangar and parking vehicle needs. We've got a player character folio coming out as well. So that's going to be an expanded character sheet that you can get your hands on, a folder with pockets for handouts. That's pretty cool. And then we have something really special coming for you in October, which is Guilt of the Grave World. That's going to be our first adventure path, which is an all-in-one book that takes you through more than just one level of adventure. This one takes you from 1st through 5th level. And you'll get a taste of cinematic starship scenes in this book because there are a few encounters with interesting anomalies and enemies in space as you fight the corpse fleet and learn more about the history of Eox and even Zoe, our undead media mogul. You see him right there on the cover. Oh, goodness. Look at that. That's definitely something Zoe would live stream.
This was written by Mike Bramnick. Jenny developed it. This really is kind of setting the scene for the types of stories we want to be telling this edition. One of the things you'll see in this adventure is that it ends with a particularly massive change to the status quo of things. We want our adventures to really be changing things up. We want them to, it's a living setting. We want to do big flashy things, or talk about big flashy things. We know Zoe here is our undead media mogul. People love him, people hate him, but certainly they love him in scenarios one way or the other. One of the fun things about this is maybe we do something that goes into Zoe's history a bit. Maybe we learn a bit about the undead media mogul and where he is at and why he is there. This is a really, really interesting adventure just in terms of the pacing. It brings back some classic villains like the corpse fleet. Starship scenes are prevalent in here, but we also get to throw in a bunch of back matter. There's ancestries in here. There's equipment in here. There's a gazetteer in here. You can see some of the stuff up there on the screen right now. Really, we're trying to make these all encompassing. I love, by the way, the layout of this book. The sort of page bordering that you get in this is creepy and undead. And it's such a great,
it is.
We just shot this off to the printer. We're very excited to have it coming out later in the year.
You do have playable undead in this book as well. I mentioned this in yesterday's panel, but for those who missed it or haven't seen it yet, there are a corpse folk versatile heritage. So you can play kind of a rotting undead version of anything, any ancestry or species you are. You can also be an ancestry called an Olibrian, which are the original species that lived on Eox before it turned into the grave world. Pockets of them are still there, trapped within the halls of the living, where many of them are performing reality shows for Zoe and other undead, just for their amusement. But you can get in on that too. All right. So after we have our adventure release with Guilt of the Grave World in November, we've still got more for you. Our core release is not quite over yet. We do have a book of monsters and aliens coming at you with Alien Core, which is coming out in November, as well as a Starfinder 2 GM screen with really cool art and also a bunch of useful reference charts and reminders for you as the GM when you're running your game. And we also have another map coming out as well, a Renegade Outpost. So it'll be some cool rebel outposts. But yeah, anything you want to say about Alien Core, Thirsty? That's kind of our big one for the month.
Yeah, I got to do a 25th level creature for it. That's what I wrote. That was my
You sure did.
It's currently going through some of the last edits, but I'll say it's mean. It's not a good thing. It's maybe the thing that's on the cover of Galaxy Guide. And you don't want to fight this thing because it will mess you up terribly. It's called the Illamantula, which is just a terrifying word in and of itself. But I got to do some fun creatures for this. Gosh, I'm trying to remember all of the things that I wrote for this. Oh wait, oh look, I can pull it up just
There it
because
is.
yeah, there it is.
There's the version of the Illamantula that we have out already. This is, in fact, what is
Yeah,
on Galaxy Guide.
yeah, there
That answers a
it is.
question some of you may have of what the heck is that?
What is that thing? It's a 25th level creature.
Yes.
That's fun. It's a first ones, or yeah, this is some a leftover of the first ones. It's not the only leftover of the first ones. There's another one in there. It's only a 20th level creature that shows up that I also got to write for this. That was fun. I got to do daemons. I always enjoy writing daemons. And kind of doing like sensitive topics and like really really creepy stuff there. Jinsel's
Technology
I
and social
love.
media related
Oh yeah,
specifically.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, like
creepy. Yeah.
The two that I jumped in, and I'm just gonna say them because I can, because again, haha, spoilers. I got to do the Typo Daemon and the Civis Daemon, which are the Mistake Daemon, which is like a daemon that represents like horrors of death through like dictation errors or like incorrect copying and pasting. And then I did the Civis Daemon, which was an idea I've wanted to do for a while, which is very messed up and like tougher topic, but they're daemons, so which is the daemon who is about like online spaces and oppression and hate on social media, that kind of a thing. So really things we could only tell in Starfinder. Very exciting to just like give some like really creepy things that are only very sci-fantasy focused. So yeah,
And allow you to punch
really
them in the
really really
face,
great.
because
Yes,
in real life you can't punch the manifestation of like social media toxicity in the face, but like in Starfinder you can.
you can, and it just has an armor class of 26, so there you go.
So yeah, that's doable. With a few levels, you can handle that, right? You got this.
Yeah. But no, this book also just has so much in it. We've got uh like I think we've got what a colossi from Dimalco that are presented
Yep.
as
There's a
very
Kyokor
very
in there.
powerful complexy hazardy type things, because you can't actually fight those things directly without maybe bigger tech that we haven't quite got to yet.
He's talking about mechs.
In mechs, I'm talking about mechs, as someone
Yeah.
has to bring them up in the room with Jenny.
At least
We've
it
got
wasn't me this
It's
time.
true. It's true. We've got like classics, Oracorans, Nisaloras, nymphs, we have
Desarix.
Kasarix. We've got newer things as well. Some examples would be like if you've played Cosmic Birthday and you're familiar with the midwives, we maybe have some new versions
Oh,
of midwives
yes.
in here. Yeah, again, more classics like Electrovores, which everyone knows and loves. We get to talk a bit about what the Algolthu are up to in
Mm.
Starfinder.
Oh,
We get to
yeah.
talk about gremlins. We get to
They have
talk
nanites
about
now.
yeah. Again, trolls is just a fun one. New dragons, entirely new dragons, which I'm very 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 excited to see. Robots, just like a wide variety of different creatures that we're tossing in here, and I think really are going to they're gonna hit in a lot of different ways. And again, because there's this full compatibility, if you want to put any kind of Pathfinder creature in now, it's just a matter of using that stat block. Maybe you want to toss a gun on them. Maybe you want to do some adjustments to them. Oh, we also have some new simple templates in here that might help with some of that. Really, there's
Mhm.
just a lot going on in this book, and it's going to be sort of the definitive creature book. Oh, there, yeah, the cover of our player core, that is the
So good.
Akashic dragon. The eye laser dragon. All those eyes can shoot lasers, by the way. It's pretty horrifying. You're gonna learn all about those from this book.
Yeah, so we also have a lot more coming up too. After that, we have a ton more Starfinder Second Edition to come. We'll be announcing more probably at Gen Con, but we've got tactical Starship Combat down the road, more flip mats, probably more rule books and setting books, adventures. We have, in addition to the fiction book that we have, Era of the Eclipse, we have coming out in August. We're also starting blog fiction in June. So next month, you're going to get to meet the iconics on our blog. That's pretty cool. There'll be accessories and more. But I think because we're getting closer to time, I'm seeing a pretty good amount of questions from the audience. So
Oh boy.
I'd like to stop and I'd like to answer some questions.
Let's give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want. All right. I see. Wait, so I just got here from Tossed Right Out novel. That's right. There is a novel. It's called Era of the Eclipse, written by Tim Pratt. That will be coming out this August. We just have some advanced copies. It's really good. This delves into the to what happened right after the gap. So it puts you into the mindset of a person, an android who is on Absalom Station, waking up with like no memory of what the heck just happened and trying to figure it out with people that they meet along the way. Also interspersed with some modern plot with our iconics Chick Chick and Day. So check that out. It's a fun read. All right, next up, Starfinder Facts asks, which adventure seed are you the most personally excited to see released for GMs to start playing with? I'm gonna let Thirsty go first on that one.
Oh, okay. So I'm cheating. I'm cheating here. I'm cheating terribly here. So back in the day, I used to GM for this fine campaign called Punch and Crawl. Jenny was one of my players way back when. It was a Starfinder First Edition campaign. It was kind of in this section of space that I made up that was in the setting, but was my own little concoction. And sure enough, then I became, managing creative director for Starfinder, and I was like, haha, I'm putting my thing in. And then in Galaxy Guide, haha, I'm writing my thing in. So the region of Casmerg's absurdity is kind of like a little spark of mine that I am excited for people to be playing with. It's a new region of space, recently opened. It's kind of broken space too, which is super fun. It requires you to have maps to go to locations because regular drift travel doesn't work. It's got daemons. Hey, I wrote daemons. How does that all work? You can actually see it on the map. It's listed on this big map here. You can see it in the bottom left corner, this sort of broken area with the you can see the Cooperative of Worlds and the I'm Herr Virtuum, which are two factions that are there. It's almost like its own kind of contained area with new ancestries, new species, new factions, something we can build up on, add more to the setting. That's the fun thing about a sci fantasy setting is, it's not like, say, oh, we only have this continent and we have to wait to get to that continent and then we detail it and then we're done and we're running out of continent. So what do? Hey, we can open up some new regions of space. So the absurdity is one of those. I'm really excited to explore that. There's a lot of adventure seeds in there. Some of them tied to very old Pathfinder lore. Some of them tied to things that are near and dear to my Pathfinder roots, like the Prophets of Calistrate have a bit of a presence there. Some fun things.
So I'm excited about that, but I'm also really excited about Al-Golthus because I've always been wondering to myself, what were these things doing in the time since they kind of screwed up on Lost Galarian, and they surely must have done something since then, and some of them must have gone into the stars and developed vast empires beyond our imaginings there, and yeah, they totally did. They actually have this way station research outpost called the Riven Shroud that you can find on that galaxy map, which that map is in Galaxy Guide. It shows up as a two-sided poster as well as a reference in the book, so you can hang that sucker on your wall and you can use that in campaigns. If you get the Foundry module, the map is there too, so you can show that to your players. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing what they do. I got to write a lot for Al-Golthus for Alien Core, as well as a little bit for like Galaxy Guide. So got to dig into who really created the Riven Shroud and why. What have they done to themselves? Spoilers, they realized that manipulating living creatures is kind of like really fraught and risky. So it's far better to just manipulate your own flesh with nanites, and also to control
True.
shells, which are these like little organic, or well, not organically grown, but biotech remote war machines that they operate. And these weird creations are showing up all over near space. Uh-oh. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Yeah. Let's hop ahead.
Sure. You pick
Here
one.
we'll maybe blast through a couple of these that are easy.
Yeah.
One comment I see says, I was surprised to see that the first adventure path only goes to level 5. Can we expect that to be the standard, or we get longer ones? This is something, again, we're trying different things here. One of the things you may notice is that we have a lot of books releasing in a small period of time. We also have a smaller team on the Starfinder side, so there's a bottleneck of how many words we can write and get out, and that our editors and artists won't come and bonk us on the head. So we are starting off with some smaller content just to like really see what people are liking, make sure that we're getting our cadence in. But trust me when I say everyone on the team is very excited about doing, higher level content, larger scale adventures. Really, it's about what we can get out in this launch window and make sure that we're providing quality content. So this isn't necessarily a standard we're setting. One of the things about Starfinder as a brand is it just lets us be a bit more agile and try new things, like you're seeing with Murder in Metal City, like we're seeing with some of the adventure paths changes. We'll have more to talk about for other content come Gen Con. Once we're past sort of the launch window, we're going to be talking a bit more of maybe what's coming in 2026, and you'll get a bit of a sense on upcoming things there as well. So we'll be talking about it more, but I think everyone on the team is like, yeah, we want to do some bigger, higher level stuff as well. So don't worry, we got it there. Are there swords that go bzz and verm? Yes, we've got those. Well, obviously the focus is on Starfinder-based classes. Would the Pathfinder classes be existent? Absolutely, that is something we can have in the game. I mean, one of our earliest playtests was seeing how a gunslinger and an operative work together. That's part of the fun of this setting. It's part of the compatibility that we're really pushing. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. I think, having clerics is going to be an important thing. That is why we even have some domain rules for deities in the books, even though we don't really go into the importance of that in Starfinder. We wanted to present some mechanical options. So if you want to do a cleric of Zon Shalin, we can certainly follow up on that.
Absolutely. Let's see. IC2. Starfinder Facts asks if there's more releases planned. That is our 2025 release cadence that we've got. That star map, that visual we showed. That is what that is most of our products. It leaves off a couple of little accessories I mentioned, but those are super cool too and coming out. We will
Organized
have more
play
to
is also in
announce.
there too. So we've got
Yes.
scenarios
We have a
happening
ton of
every month. Yeah.
scenarios. Yeah, tons of Starfinder Society adventures are coming out, and I highly encourage people to play them. That is the main adventure line for Starfinder, where we're really exploring a lot of major setting hooks. We're going to be going to having this season called Invasion's Edge, where the Starfinders get to go explore this wreck on Akaton that might be tied to an ancient civilization that seeded machine life on Avalon. So you don't want to miss that. That's going to answer potentially some really big questions in the setting and explore, maybe bring up some new questions and find some really cool clues of Starfinder's past. So don't miss that. Let's see. Infinity Deck is not yet on Foundry co-op waffles, but I am hoping that it will probably have a mod for that, since we're going to have Foundry mods for all of our Starfinder 2 releases. So look forward to that. For now, it will just be a physical item in August at Gen Con. Guilt of the Grave World does have some inspiration from Dead Suns. Space Cats asked that. However, I don't want to go too much into that because I don't want to get into spoilers for everybody here.
Yeah.
Let's get through a few more questions.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question here. It's a bit rulesy related, but I'm gonna hop on it because I think it
Okay,
speaks to some things we've got.
go for it.
So where was it here? I had, oh yeah. ZGRSSD. Did you change weapon traits at all, particularly archaic, analog, and boost? Yeah. Some of these got some look ats. Certainly one of the ones that we changed was boost. In the final version, the boost trait now also scales with your weapon at different grades. So you know, if you have a boost weapon, that is, I will pull up an example here. Let's look at the Fang Blade. See, I have the power, I can pull this up. If we looked at the Fang Blade in the playtest, it didn't have boost at all. Well, the new one has boost, and it has boost 1d12. And if you boost, one of the cool things is, yeah, if your weapon grade, if your weapon grade goes higher, so say it's an advanced weapon, you roll 2 dice. If it's an ultimate grade, you get 3 extra dice. So we've made some changes to make boost a much more viable and a pretty intense option, honestly, for the action economy there. Some of the other traits definitely we've taken a look at. I don't want to go into all the specifics, but boost was one we certainly looked at and made adjustments to.
Space Cat Kaz asks, are class archetypes in Player Core? And yes, they are. So all the classes we're releasing in Player Core, it will be there. There's also a Starfinder Society agent archetype, so check that out. We've got some extras. And as mentioned previously, Galaxy Guide has 6 archetypes that aren't class-based, but that are all faction-based, like that Xenodruid. And more. Handsome Ganker asked about mech rules for SF2E. Currently, I cannot announce anything based on that, but you know that I'm going to make sure it happens at some point.
On the going back to archetypes really quick, one thing that I
Yeah.
don't think has got a lot of spotlight is Player Core does have archetypes in it. We managed to sneak some in along with the class archetype. So you know, your envoy, mystic, operative, all those archetypes that exist. There's also the Starfinder field agent that we got in there. So again, we've got some different some different options. The Starfinder field agent, I will say, is a bit different than the first edition version. Maybe a little less dependent on having a vehicle, which was pretty specific. But that is an archetype we managed to put into the book. Is, you know, an extra archetype that you're going to get.
All right, I see a couple other questions. There's a lot, but I'll go through a few more and then let Thirsty take some more.
Yeah.
Anchor89 asks, where should a PF2 player or GM start with SF2? And so luckily for you, you already know how to play the basics of this game because it is compatible and the rules and math are the same. So what you're going to want to do is get your hands on Galaxy Guide, which is already out, because that will introduce the whole setting to you. That will also tell you a little bit more about like the factions at play, give you some extra archetypes and playable ancestry options like we mentioned earlier that you can start your game out with. And then what you're going to want to do is wait a little bit until August to get that player core and just follow that release map that we've brought out. If you get subscribed, if you want to get in on our subscriptions, we do have a Starfinder Adventures subscription for everything that'll include Murder in Metal City, also Guilt of the Grave World, and future unannounced adventures that we're planning. You can also get in on the rules subscription and make sure you're getting Player Core, GM Core, and Alien Core as they come out. So that's where you're going to want to start. Those are going to be trickling in. Of course, if you find yourself just really curious about deep diving some lore after you check out Galaxy Guide, all of the first edition books like Near Space, Packed Worlds, all of that lore is still valid. Just some of it has been updated because time has moved on, but there's not a lot of, we didn't do a ton of like rewrites or, you know, retcons. It's the same lore. It's just progressed in time and some changes have happened. So those are good places to check. All right, let's see. Might we eventually get playable Anisite? More to come on Ancestries soon.
Yeah. In the future. Ooh.
Woo, the future.
Each of you, what is your most favorite exciting class update since the playtest? Oh boy. Ooh, that's a toughie.
I know, because it's hard to remember. It's like, what did we change?
I know what were the final changes in the.
At some point, we changed. I'll jump in and say, at some point, we added more abilities that just immediately activate when you roll initiative. So, I know that like as is Solarian and Witch Warper start out with that. So like a Witch Warper can just manifest their quantum field, which causes like difficult terrain and other boosts, like depending on their you know, which weird paradox they have as a Witch Warper. Also, Solarians can just go ahead and be attuned and manifest their weapons. I think those were really good changes. There's like abilities and feats too that can do more. Like I think there's one that lets the soldier just like be ready, like let out an intimidating laugh or remark or a shot at the beginning of combat. I love that. Like it makes it's fun because sometimes if the players roll poorly, they don't get to do anything and the enemies are just beating on them for like 5 minutes. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. One of the things we did change as well was for Solarians that I think is interesting, and I talked a little bit about them, but the final version of the class drops the arrangements. So little like there was a lot going on with Solarian, especially at first level. It was a very complicated class. So we streamlined some of that and removed the arrangements just to focus more on, you know, what we wanted the class to do, not necessarily force people down certain paths. That also allowed us to just open up some of the abilities that they had in their feats as well. So we had some really fun time adjusting that. I think the Solarian changes are some of the more interesting. I mentioned it already, but like the Nimbus Surge, we kind of changed out how some of that worked to be a bit less raw defensive and more reactive, allowing you to kind of get some reactive strike-esque opportunities. Just some things there that I think made the classes a bit more approachable at first level, but then kept that depth as you proceeded through them. Another thing from the playtest as well was we increased the availability of options for the solar weapon. So adding like two-handed extra damage and reach as options, but some of those took up, 2 traits. Just some fun changes that we really kind of grokked on as we were going through the process. I also think, just looking at how attunement and cycling and disharmony worked when we had some of those disharmony traits, we really upped what they did so that they felt a bit better when you did them. Things like that I think will work better with the class. I'm really excited about that. One thing I'm also really excited about, just so I don't have to hear about it anymore, was a little thing from operatives. I think that some operatives, there was a particular feat, the hair trigger feat, which operatives really liked. Maybe wasn't the greatest for the game, especially being a second level feat, so we changed that out. Hair trigger still exists, but it's now a 6th level feat, and it requires to be the last creature you aimed at. So again, like just some of those balancing things. When it comes to just like overall power, though, I think, some of the stuff with Soldier, I feel that Soldier's got some really big upgrades as well. The other thing that I would say is, just allowing soldiers to get a bit more damage in, and having some opportunities there, and really looking at some of the feats. Again, just overall it was a lot, but I think Solarian's my favorite, Soldier's probably my second. Rambled enough on classes. I could talk classes all day. They were fun.
Yeah, they were really fun. But we can get in a couple of last minute questions here before we go. So let's see. Cardamom Hyena asks about the Free Captains logo. So that cool logo that you can get if you get the special edition of Galaxy Guide, it doesn't have a particular story, except that Kyle Hunter, who's one of our in-house art staffers, he came up with that. He designed all of those logos. That is actually one thing he's really good at. He in the past did some Star Wars logos, like like some actual official Star Wars world logos, which is pretty cool. And he did an awesome job for us. You can see it right there. The little knife puppy or knife cat doesn't really have a name. Maybe the community will come up with one, because we certainly have Swoltrid becoming canon. So there's no telling. No telling. All righty. Do you see any more you want to try to get here, Thirsty? I see some about play tests, and again, we don't have any more any news to announce. We do still have the tech class play test right now for 6 more days. That's Mechanic and Technomancer.
Yeah, so that's coming up. I will say one last thing. Is please check us out at Gen Con. Gen Con, we're going to have more announcements. I mean, part of the fun is, you know, we're just about to go into this massive release cycle, as we just spent the last hour going over. You know, we don't want to undercut ourselves and talk about the next great thing, but maybe when you come to Gen Con, we'll have some things to announce that are the next great thing and sort of the direction we're going. I will say that I'm very excited for all the projects the Starfinder team is tackling next. I think some of the stuff we're getting is exactly what the fans want, exactly what people have been asking for out of products for a while. I will say that, you know, some of the future books are really exciting, both on the adventure side, both on the rules side, maybe some additional surprises as well. But please come check us out at Gen Con. If you're at the show,
Yes.
please come and buy the wide array of Starfinder product. Certainly, we're going to have a lot. If you're at your friendly local game stores, well, purchase there. Go to Paizo.com. You can also subscribe to the Starfinder line, the rule books, the adventures, all of that. Know that subscribing gets you those PDFs a little bit earlier before other people. It helps us out quite a bit. Really, you know, we kind of succeed based on the support of our community. So we really hope that you're going to support us on this, buy our books, buy our PDFs as we go into a new edition of a game, which, you know, the more support we have, the more cool and ambitious things we can do going forward. So really, that's how I want to end it. And again, thanking everyone for their support, whether you've been with us since first edition Starfinder, you're just coming on board now, you're a Pathfinder fan who's interested now that the rule sets are going to be the same. Really, we can't do this without you, and it's going to be a heck of a journey going forward, and can't wait to really have the full launch at Gen Con.
Yep. Thank you so much for playing, and hope to see you at Gen Con, and hope to see you out there in space. Bye, everybody. Thank
Bye, all.
you.